whatever happened that has led to the split makes it something that is not enjoyable for people anymore, then that affects me a lot, because I haven't, like, that is still very personal to me. So I'd rather have people just enjoy that still.
Ghost Cult Magazine is happy to welcome in our old friend Charlotte Wessels. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am great. It is so great to see you. So excited for all the things to talk about. New album coming out. Just an amazing time in your career. Really, I know everybody is very fatigued and tired of talking about the last few years of life because, there's much bigger things than the problems of musicians and touring and recording and pivoting. But I always felt like, I never cast shade on anyone who felt uninspired or unable to work during the last couple of years because
Mm-hmm.
family, life, everything. But I do appreciate how you really pivoted. You were already kind of into your solo career, and then you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna figure out a whole new way to work going forward," and involved your fans, which we'll talk about, and all these things. So I doff my hat to you in appreciation for how you were able to pivot during the worst of times.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a weird time indeed, and I was very glad that I had set up the Patreon at the moment that I did, because none of us expected a pandemic. And of course, yeah, it's been a weird time for everyone, but yeah, it was weird for me also because it was the pandemic. And then, with Delain split, I closed a chapter that was 16 years of my life. Um, so I was very happy that I had the Patreon set up, which was supposed to be a side thing for anything that was explicitly non-metal or, in that direction. I was glad that I had it because if I'd had to think, it's just like you said, if I'd had to think of something new in that kind of heart achy, globally weird time, I'm not sure if I could have done it. Whereas now I have this thing set up, and it was just making the decision of, okay, this is going to be my full-time thing now. I could kind of sit back and fall into this deep black hole, but I've got my song of the month to finish. I'm working on this video that I've got to shoot next week, and I've got this community of great folks who will support that and who've got my back. So yeah, I couldn't have done it without them, but it was uh it was a weird time. Yeah.
And it ain't over yet. It's so hard to navigate the world right now for everybody. And again, my compassion is high for anybody who's uninspired, didn't feel creative, could not work for a variety of reasons. Not everyone was able to, and not
Mm.
and in credit to your fans, not everybody. I do a lot of music marketing in addition to Ghost Cult and my regular job, which is in digital marketing in the space, and not everyone can do Patreon. It's not for everyone. And the fans, you really bridge the gap, not just with your audience that was interested in supporting you continuously, but also you figured out the secret sauce, I think, for all crowdfunding is really to make your fans like a partner. And very few people get that idea. You have to really make them partners and give them value. And I think that's all anybody's looking for. If I'm going to pay for something and ask to support it constantly, I just want to get back something I can't get anywhere else. And I think you figured that out, how to include your audience in the process, which is really great.
Well, I do really feel like there are a huge part of it. Like with everything that I do now, it gives me a lot of power to have them support. Even now that I am working like with a label again for the distribution of this album, just to be able to make your music, not relying on advances, for example, and then going to a label and saying, here's a thing that I made. Do you like it? Like, it's very different from being in a situation where you actually have to ask for something first in order to make the thing. And I mean, that can be a great way to do it, but especially in the kind of phase that I was in now, it gave me a big sense of freedom and independence to be able to do it that way. And I'm very aware of the fact that that's possible, um, because of because of them, because of their support. So I hope that they know that enough. Yeah.
Nice. And in addition, I'm going to throw one more compliment your way, which is I'm sure as a part and parcel of splitting with Delain, you were not. It would be very easy for you to go back and create a band and do another Delain style project. But I really love that both these records, your solo career thus far, is very eclectic. You're really reaching all over the map musically, and not just that, but actually accomplishing it. And it kind of to pay you a compliment. One of my favorite singers ever is Anneka van Giersbergen, right from The Gathering, and her incredible
Mine
solo
too.
career. I know. So that's the thing. Like these two records really remind me of when she went solo. And just if I want to go on tour and play acoustic guitar and do that, I'll do that. If I want to make a rock band, I'll make a rock band. And I love that you were able to not only have that freedom, but sometimes your audiences don't like it when you change. So your audience also is with you on this journey
Yeah.
to evolve, and I think that's really special.
Yeah, I think I do think that from a marketing point of view, it would have been the easy way to do exactly what you said, to start a band and do something that is kind of in the same vein. I have noticed that the first of my newer songs that hit all the playlists, like the Spotify editorials and things like that, was the song that kind of sounded like a symphonic metal song. So from a marketing point of view, I definitely think it would have been the easy way. But for me personally, like I was really not able to, like, if you have a band split after 16 years, like my first thought wasn't at all like, okay, I'll just start a new one. I was like, oh my God, if this ever happens again, I'll die. No, not I'll die, but I was like, it was just it was heavy, and I was like, I'm not going to do something that looks like that. And it took me a long time to even kind of open the door to collaborations and such, again. And but I'm very happy that I did, and I'm very happy that that storm has calmed down a little bit, because right now I am enjoying the fact that, that Timo and Joey and Otto are joining me on stage again for, the double release show of these two albums. That is so special to me now. And if I would have continued to be so scared as I was now, then that wouldn't have been possible now. Wow, words. Yeah, but I hope you get what I mean. Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
in terms of marketing, it would have been easy, but I don't think that, like, the thought of doing that hasn't crossed my mind, especially not that long ago. Yeah.
Right. And of course, as much as you want to succeed and you want your fans to appreciate you and stay with you, you also have to satisfy yourself first and foremost as an artist, right? And of course, I think a lot of people expected you to grow and do different kinds of music anyway. I surely did. I know have had a sense of what you were capable of, covers, different things that you always talked about your taste in music. And there, there's no shame in that. Like, it's like when your parents split up 2 Christmases. It's awesome. I'm happy they continued on and they're doing a new thing, and you have your thing.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's no
There's no
issues
need for
there.
like competition or choosing
Yeah,
or
there's no
no.
need, and I'm not
Yeah.
a fan of the media trying to make drama where there is none and things like that. Not a fan. Don't care for that. We don't do that here at Ghost Cult. I think people know that
No,
about
and
us.
also, like, I mean, I have spent 16 years uh like working on that music and in that band passionately. And if whatever happened that has led to the split makes it something that is not enjoyable for people anymore, then that affects me a lot, because I haven't, like, that is still very personal to me. So I'd rather have people just enjoy that still.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And of course, you have this tremendous body of work now. In 2 years, you've released 2 albums, self-produced in your studio, 6 Feet Under Studios, Tales from 6 Feet Under, Volume 1 and 2. And what I thought would be fun is
Yeah.
to do a little rundown of the track by track of the new album.
All
And
right.
you feel free to share whatever thoughts and feelings you like to about each song. Doesn't have to be super long, but whatever comes to mind is
I'll just
best.
do the first thing that comes up about the song, and then
Fantastic. I love it. The album starts off, of course, with Venus Rising, which is a
yes,
wonderful opening track.
yes. So Venus Rising, that was inspired by, there were, at the moment that I had the first idea of the songs, there were a lot of nasty things happening in the Netherlands. There was a big scandal with sexual abuse happening, at the same time, I put myself to into a cabin for a week to write things. And I brought some books of like my favorite art for inspiration. And I was looking at the Venus of Botticelli. And at that point, I was just thinking about, it's kind of, so she was, of course, like a beauty ideal of that time. So it's still kind of superficial, but at the same time, I was thinking about all of the things that were happening and all the misogyny that was kind of going around at that time, and the victim blaming and everything. It was really horrendous. And then I was looking at the Venus of Botticelli, and I had this feeling of, oh my, I am so happy that that image is kind of frozen in time, and that she, because she felt like a person to me at that point, that she didn't have to cover up or expose more or grow or shrink or speak louder or speak softer, but that she was just kind of rising from the waves in this kind of powerful move of coming into herself forever. So it was inspired by a lot of bad things happening, and then it turned into a rather positive song about Venus rising from the waves forever. And now that because yesterday we recorded a video for it, it's going to be a single. We recorded a video for it, and all I can think about now is what's happening in Iran, and it's seems like these things, yeah, it's sad to have to sing about it. At the same time, it's also a way to do something with it, I guess. So, yeah.
Right on. What a heartbreaking story that is, and I also reflect on that we've had a lot of turmoil here in the U.S. And the only thing I can say is when you have a psyche breaking thing happen to your whole culture,
Mm-hmm.
the only encouraging positive thing you can take out of it is how the people react. So you know you're still on the right side of life when you see people rise up en masse and say this is not right, this is not acceptable. And I do appreciate that. It's still a horrifying, terrible, sad situation.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that. I look forward to that video, by the way. And yeah, we're still trying to figure out what can we do to help amplify those voices and support
Yeah.
people.
Well, I feel like speaking up about it now and sharing the hashtag, especially since the internet ban is going on, is a very easy thing to do that everyone can do. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. The second track is Human to Ruin featuring Timo.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Human to Ruin, this is the song that got the playlists, maybe unsurprisingly. So it started from I had a new bell plugin, and it kind of sounded like these it kind of sounded like it would be something that was like a creepy lullaby. And at that time I was working with this lyrical idea, because my songs, they usually start from vocals, from like the melodies and lyrics, and then I do also sit around and play around on the piano or with my plugins. But it's usually the moment where that latches onto a lyric is usually when the instrument side of things starts to really develop. So I had this kind of lullaby-ish bell part thingy, and I was thinking at that point, like, the song is very much the things you say to yourself when you feel like you're undeserving of love, like whether that's friendship, whether that's like a romantic relationship, or whether that's I was thinking, like, will I ever have kids someday, or will I just ruin them? And I felt that the sad lullaby thing got stuck to it, and I started working on the song from there. And I chose not to give like a happy or a redeeming end to that lyrically, because the feelings are so dark in a way, and I felt a simple I felt like it was maybe stronger to say all those things out loud and then hearing how silly they sound, and then realizing it's not that bad, than it was to actually write like some sort of happy ending or redeeming factor to the song. and I'm very fond of the song, and I'm very actually the part that Timo played. There was one part in the song where I felt like it was too sweet, and I also had relied too much on this plugin thingy, and I felt like it needed something more uh, individual. And we had just started rehearsing for the live gig, and Timo played this. I was like, yes, can you play that? And also, I have to hand in like the mix next week, but can we please put this on the album instead of the thing that there was? So I'm really, really happy that the other song that Timo played on for this record, he was there from the start because I knew that he had to be there. And this was like just a very, very lucky addition of Timo. Yeah.
Nice. The Phantom Touch is the next track.
Yeah, okay, so the Phantom Touch was inspired by I was feeling kind of panicky, and something that I do when I have these feelings that I don't really want to explicitly talk about is I find a piece of fiction or something that I can hook it onto. So I'm not like totally exhibitionistic, but I can tie it to something that is fiction, but then I do feel the feeling. So you can tell the story as if it's yours, but it's not you putting everything out there, you know? So the thing that I worked with was The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins. It's a 19th century short story about a woman going crazy in the attic and then seeing a woman in the wallpaper. Well, that's the general feeling of it, but it's very much from the time when if women had any kind of mental problem, and a mental problem could be also just not doing what society expected of you exactly, then they were just put under lots of drugs or put away in the basement or in the attic in this case. So that one came from that. Then the guitar, I was kind of wondering what I would do with that in terms of arrangement, and I had this guitar melody that was actually from a sample thingy, and I thought, oh my god, this would be great if I would make something like totally doomy and to really fit with that kind of descent into madness, and then accompany that with the organ and just make it very, very dark and slow and uneasy, and then really belt out in the choruses. So that's how that one developed. And I think that especially the chorus is maybe one of my favorite parts of, like, I really feel that one when I sing it. I cannot sing it without feeling it. Like, if that makes me crazy, I will rest in the arms of madness now. It's you cannot say that and just be like, well, if that makes me crazy, you know, it's just, it has to be belted. So yeah, that's that one.
That lyric is going to be hard to beat, let me tell you. That's a good one. Against All Odds is the next track, again featuring Timo, and probably my favorite song on the record. Like 1 and 1A.
I've heard that a lot. It's surprising. So I wrote this in the same week that I wrote Venus Rising. It was a good week in the cabin in the woods. And I remember that my first name for the song was To Country ? But I decided that it wasn't. Yeah, so this is also, I had the feeling that I wanted to work with. I kind of had an idea of a melody I wanted to go with, but the real spark of inspiration is maybe a bit embarrassing. But there is this 80s movie. It's kind of the Mean Girls of the 80s. It's called Heathers, and in the movie, one of the Mean Girls says to someone, well, fuck me gently with a chainsaw. And I thought that was so hilarious. So I was like, I thought that it was inspiring, like, to tell someone to do something nice in a really horrible way. And so that's basically where this one actually kind of started, from the third verse, in that sense, that the come take my hand and feed me gently to the wolves, shackle me sweetly down the deep side of the pool. You know, that was kind of inspired by that play on words. And otherwise it was this was just really one where once I knew what I was going to say and I had like that fun little twist to it, it was really easy to just write the song in that, like, I'll sing and I'll see where it's going and I'll make the chords follow. And I wanted it to stay really small. So I asked Timo pretty early on in the process, like, will you please replace my gorgeous plug-in guitars with your much gorgeouser real guitars, please. And it was really special to have him on the track and also to record the video with him at Tivoli Vredenburg, where we will also perform the very first show after 2 years in less than a month. Yeah.
Nice, and I love Heathers. That's awesome. That movie still holds up. It's tremendous. I'm old enough to remember when that came out because I think I was in high school, but it's awesome. And I'm glad you brought that up. A Million Lives is the next track.
So yeah, A Million Lives. Let's see. I like the bass line in that one. I think it's one of the cooler bass parts in that song. That song was inspired by there's this book called The Midnight Library, and it's about a woman who, it's dramatic. Trigger warning. It's about a woman who takes her own life. And then she ends up in a library with books of all the lives that she could have led. And she's kind of free to roam there for a while and see how her life would have been if she made different kind of choices. And the premise of the book is kind of like, it's kind of predictable. You know, it's like the moment you start the book, you know exactly where it's going to go. And still, when you put it down, you feel that your life is special. Like, you know exactly what the book is going to do from the moment you open it, which is usually not something that you want, but it's very effective. And I was very inspired. And the song was very much inspired by that, by, hey, you're always looking for something bigger, something better, something more interesting, something more spiritual or unreal, or while actually the fact that out of a million lives you could have led, this is the one that you have. This is what you're going to have to do with, you know, that is kind of what I wanted to sing about, and also about sowing sunflowers in fields of stars, just because I could.
Right on. The Final Road Trip is the next track.
Ah, yes, The Final Road Trip. So that one came from the chorus, and the chorus is, I mean, I think it's one of the most used chord progressions of all time, but it is so effective. And if you have a melody that works, then it can be so damn delicious, you know. So I find a road trip. It's a road trip at the end of the world. It very much plays with the idea of, I mean, it was the pandemic. It was the pandemic. It was summer. I was going on a holiday, and we were finding a place where we could go, you know, COVID wise. And I just thought that the whole situation was just so bizarre. So I wrote a song about riding into the sunset, which may be the very last one. And it has trumpets in the end, very happy trumpets, but still also, you know, in the book of Revelations, the trumpets announce the end times. It's just that my trumpets do ba, 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 da. So it's actually a very happy and a very uplifting songs, and the lyrics are intentionally very bubblegummy. Like I had fun with that one. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Fun fact, there's a lot of people in America who thought the actual rapture was going to happen the other day, and it didn't happen. So, bummer for them.
Good.
They're all stuck in hell with the rest of us. Anyway, Good Dog is next.
Good Dog. It was kind of a really, that was an old idea, and I only had that verse, which is kind of like, this is a very mellow song. No, it's not. It really jumps from one thought to another. What am I going to say about Good Dog? It's a bit of a weird one. I've had the first verse and chorus laying around forever and kind of liking it, but then it was also pretty weird. It's also one of the songs that is very explicitly about attraction, and also a bit about not being nice to each other and coming out of a relationship damaged in a way, or kind of learning how to, like, being with someone manipulative, and then the protagonist has in the end learned how to do that too. Like it's very, yeah, it's actually, it's a weird song. It's weird lyrically, it's weird musically, but I've had it lying around forever and thinking, do I do something with it? Do I not do something with it? And in the end, when I spent some time with it, I thought, well, it's a weird dog, but it's a good dog. It can be it can be on the record. It's yeah. It's also just very different from all of the rest, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy it. Yeah.
Nice. The next track is also another one that I think has taken off a little bit, right, in the run up to the album, which is Toxic, which also has a great video.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so Toxic. So the spark for that song was there was a news item that day, which was a famous man. I'm not going to say his name because he's been spoken free. So but he was accused of raping a lot of people, and he was spoken free, and that was kind of upsetting. And then the next news item was Britney Spears' trial, and it was kind of in this, it's this mix of celebrity culture where you feel like, why are we seeing this on the news? Like, how are the individual lives of these people more important than global issues? But at the same time, they're so representative of global issues. Like the guy who was spoken free is like rape culture, is like victim blaming. Like there's so many things that are happening so much that it represents. And then the woman fighting for autonomy became a lot more relevant after after I actually first released a song on Patreon with Roe v. Wade being overturned. So it's I feel like this culture where like the celebrity news kind of replaces the news, but then it is a representation of what is really going on, and what is really going on never changes because it's the same structures in power. That is kind of the thing that I wanted to speak about, and then to also kind of make that more visual with the video. And I'm very sad that it has become more relevant since I wrote it. It would have been nice if it would have been the other way around. But it started as a Britney reference. There's also like a little bling 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 in the bridge. No.
I'm here for it. And thank you for sharing all that. You know, this is a lot of personal stuff. We're not quite done yet, but you know, obviously, yeah, of course, you're gonna pour in whatever's going on in your heart into your music and into your lyrics. So thank you for sharing in advance of finishing this rundown. But yeah, I did catch that little musical cue too. I'm all for it. I love Britney. I don't care. There goes your metal credibility. I love Britney Spears. I love a lot of pop music actually. The next track is I Forget, and I don't want to butcher its Eliane's name, but hopefully I said that correctly.
Yeah, you did. Eliana.
Eliana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eliana.
Can never tell with the E at the end.
Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it's not. Yeah. So I Forget. How did I start that one? It's a very sad one, and it's a very like a lot of the songs are engaging with what is happening. Toxic being like in this talk the most recent example of that. I think I Forget is kind of a song for those moments where you're shutting down. Like I think everyone has them. If there's too much going on, or you've been worrying about things for a long time, at one point, like I don't know if it's this the same for everyone, but my brain goes foggy. Like I will quite literally forget things. That was also the reason why I started the song in the first place. Like I was getting so forgetful and so scatterbrained, and it was just not fun anymore. And so this song is more about your brain shutting off for a second, and which can be nice if you choose to do it. And I think maybe I should choose to do it more, like shutting off the brain and taking more time to, I don't know, maybe relax or meditate, or I don't know what people do to to do that thing. But I feel like if you don't do it yourself, if you don't choose to do it, your body will do it for you, and that's usually not as pleasant. So yeah, I Forget was kind of written from that state of mind, and I even halfway I didn't feel like singing anymore, so I grabbed the clarinet. So half of it is clarinets. And Claire over here, I call her Claire. She made an appearance, Claire the clarinet, on this album as well as the previous one. And Eliana, Eliana heard. So this is the thing. Like I always have to do the songs within a month. So I'll program and it's often like I always want Eliana on the tracks, but often I don't know that I'm going to put a prominent cello in a song until it's like 1 or 2 days before my mixing deadline. This is kind of how it works when you do a song every month. So this one also, I already had it mixed because by the time that I had those cellos in, it was like, I have to hand this in tomorrow. So it didn't really make sense to ask. But I let her listen to the song, and she really liked the song, and she was like, you need an actual cello on here. Like she graciously invited herself, because she know that I would have if I had the time. And she played the cellos in time for me to have a new mix made for the actual record. So her real cellos were not on the first Patreon version, but they are on the album version. I'm really grateful for her to have done that so beautifully. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then the final track is Utopia, which I think kind of sums up everything, kind of puts a positive spin on the rest of the record.
It starts with when the world has come to an end. So it's, yeah, but it's, I mean, the very end is no, we will not unlock our hands. So there is this sense of togetherness and community. And from the beginning of when I started this Patreon, I do these monthly hangouts, which are part of the perks for patrons. So I do these monthly hangouts, and I always end with, because it's weird to stop talking and just disconnect, So I always end with a little fade out, and we play Utopia, and it's kind of the end of the night, we wave goodbye kind of song. So I felt that with this, because it was one of the first songs, it was like the kind of like the early bird perk. Like the people who signed up first for the Patreon got this as like a freebie, as an extra song of the month way in the beginning. So I thought that since it was so much a part of like the early Patreon days, I thought if this is the Tales from 6 Feet Under, and if it has gotten such a significant meaning like within the community, and for me it also kind of embodies that sense of community with the "we will not unlock our hands," etc. It has to be on the record as well.
Nicely done, and thank you again for sharing all that stuff. Can't always be easy to unpack your process and talk about these very emotional, heavy issues, and I am grateful that you did. I'm going to give you back the rest of your day in a second. I have one last question for you. I always like to end these with a wild card question, and so I picked out one for you, and that one is, if you could invite 3 people to dinner, alive or dead, heroes, family, anyone in the world, who would your 3 dinner guests be?
Um, I think at this point, I mainly feel that I don't see my friends and family a lot, and I cannot pick 3 of them. But probably for me, like at this point, it would just be that, like, it would be my parents or a brother, sister, the families, or just friends that I haven't seen in a while. So I don't know if that's like a boring answer, but and I'm assuming that the husband can be there anyway because he's already here, so he doesn't count as one of the 3. I get 3 extra. Okay, so yeah,
There are no
probably
real
that.
rules. You can have as many people as you want. I just like 3. It's like a series of questions I copied from Proust, and I have been
Oh,
redoing this ever since like 20 years. I always throw one of
oh,
those. Mostly try to throw one in. So thank you for humoring that answer and
yeah,
question.
sure,
Charlotte, it
sure.
has been awesome to chat with you. Thank you so much for sharing all this stuff with us. I am so excited for Tales from 6 Feet Under, Volume 2. Good luck with the performance. I hope we get more of them as the world opens up and you feel ready to start. I don't know if touring is in the works, but we'd love to see you back out on the road someday. And thank you so much for sharing your time with Ghost Cult.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the interview. It was lovely talking to you.